Okay, let's do some materials. Select a die. Let's go to the shading workspace and go to the material tab here. You want to add. Let's rename it die. Shift this a little bit. You can actually get rid of these since we're not going to need them. Okay, let's do a base color. I actually kind of want like a swirly texture, so I'm going to use a noise texture. I'm going to change a couple of the parameters, so let's do a preview. I'm using Node Wrangler, so I can hit Control Shift left click to preview this. Make it how you want it to look. I'm going to use a scale of 1.8, linearity 2.3, and distortion 1.7. Now let's add a color ramp, converter, color ramp, and choose colors that you want to use for the die. So I am going to use this color and this color, and I'm going to pull this down a little bit, make it darker. Now let's add another color ramp. Plug that in, and I want to change the value of these. So the left one, we're going to use 0.2. The right one, we're going to use 0.4. And this will plug in to our roughness. So this little marbled look, I kind of want to make the roughness depend on how dark it is, just a little bit. Let's plug this into base color and preview, and it looks good so far. Okay, now I want to add a little tiny bit of imperfections, so let's add a Voronoi texture and preview it. And I'm going to set the scale to 21. And we're going to add a color ramp here. And we want to pull this down till, we want to set this to distance to edge, I'm sorry. So 3D distance to edge. And we want to pull this down until we have like thin lines here. I'm going to set it to 0.03. Now we can duplicate these and set this one to F1 and the scale of this one to 32. I'm going to preview this. I think everything else is good. And here, let's preview. We want these darker circles, right? So the black, the position, I'm going to do about 2.5. And the white one, about 0.5. Okay. So these little circles are going to kind of act as a mask for those lines. And we want to do an add now. So converter math, and then add, and plug these colors in and do a preview. And we want to use clamp. So now we have little kind of scratches. Okay, now let's add a bump. Plug that in. put the value into height. And you can see the height values here. We actually want to use a strength of 0.1, or a distance of 0.1. Distance of 0.01, strength of 0.1. We want them subtle. Okay. And we plug these into the normal. Let's see how it looks. Just adds a little bit of surface detail. Let's go to our render preview here. And I'm going to turn off this scene world in the viewport shading. Just kind of so we can have what this looks like rendered. I am using cycles, so you can change that here in the render settings. I'm using cycles and GPU compute. Okay, on this principled BSDF, let us add, we're going to crank up the subsurf. And once again, this is just pick values you can mess around, pick values you like. And the transmission, I'm going to go to 0.9. Okay, let's add another material here and call it numbers. And I'm actually just going to keep this totally default. So let's go into edit mode. And if you don't have your numbers selected, we did create the vertex group, so we can use that to select our numbers. And go to the material and just hit assign and set those numbers as white. Okay, let's select the plane. I'm going to go to solid view for now. Or not solid view, material preview. This is just going to be a wood texture. We're pretending it's a table. So I noticed the plane is not in our collection here. Let's just hit F2. Rename it table. And then M to move it to collection. Now in the materials, let's add a new material. Call it table. And here, let's add a noise texture. Let's do a preview of it. We want to uncheck normalize here. It'll give us more extreme results. And scale 0.1, roughness 0.25. Let's click this and Control T using Node Wrangler and use the object coordinates, plug it into mapping. And you can play around. Well, we kind of want to stretch it on one axis pretty much to make it look more like wood. I played around with it and I used 0.1 for X, 0.8 for Y, and then 1 for Z. Just play around with those until you get something you like. And let's duplicate this. We want preview the factor, not the color. We do want to normalize this one. Scale, I'm going to do 2.5. Detail 13. Roughness 0.8. And you can see it starting to take shape here. Distortion 0.8. Now let's add some color to it. Add a color ramp. Use this plus to add another color here. And for these colors, I'm going to use a few that I've established here. Once again, feel free to pick whatever you want. 0.1 for this one, for the position. The middle one, I'm going to use this color and 0.3 for the position. The last one. I'm going to use this color and 0.65. Okay, let's plug this into the base color. See how it's looking. Okay. Okay, let's use that to add a bit of texture here. So I'm going to do another color ramp. Plug the factor in from the second noise texture. And for the black, I'm going to use position of 0.25. For the white, 0.75. And let's plug that in the roughness. See how it's looking. Like that. Now let's make it a little bumpy. So I'm going to add a bump node here. Plug the factor into height. Preview that. It's real extreme right now. Let's do distance of 0.1. Strength 0.3. It's a little hard to tell, but I think it looks good. Plug this normal into our normal and take a look. I like that. Okay, I think the texturing looks pretty good. I'm not going to be close up on anything, so I think that'll do it for us.